I think that's the beauty about our kit a lot of times, is we demystify that and we say, this is how you should do it. Of course, there's more ways to skin a cat, but that is our recommended after the amount of installs that we've done. So we're about to install our very first panel. We got the hood prep, we got all the edge prep. I'm not really sure if we show that in the video, but one thing that you do want to do is make sure you get some alcohol, 7% ISO with some water, and go underneath all the edges. That way, when you actually do the edge fold over, it sticks a lot more properly. So if you do the right prep, it should be good. And like I said in that first video, if you're not gonna prep, don't do any of this stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and do even more prep. One last defense before we get started, which is basically, we're just spraying this hood down with slip solution. And slip solution, and I want to wet my hands as well, but slip solution is basically water and dishwash soap or whatever it is. Everybody has their own mix, but I use 7th gen, and the kits that we provide, we package ourselves. When I do this too, I kind of go a little bit around it because I'm trying to bring some of the dust around me down, okay? So then once you do that, I have my big squeegee, and if you notice, I have this little bowl, or this little, with water, and this is a really good hack. You just kind of leave it there and then make sure that you're not introducing additional dirt, right? Or anything like that. You're not muscling anything. With most things in installation, you don't want to muscle anything, right? You just want to glide it through, and you can see I'm just kind of getting rid of some of the, and I'm kind of looking at it and inspecting it while I'm doing this. Overall, the paint looked pretty good. I didn't see a whole lot of imperfections. I mean, some here and there. There was a couple chips, like for example, like that is a chip from a rock that I saw. But other than that, there was like one more in the bumper. And it's crazy because this has 800 miles, literally from Kentucky to here, and it already has some damage. So, I mean, this is why paint protection, I think, has really taken off in the past 10 years, right? Once we do that, we're basically going to douse it again. And you want to be generous with it, right? So if you aren't generous with it, what happens is it'll stick in the areas that you don't want. And all these bubbles, you want every single square footage of this completely covered. And we're gonna just grab this corner right here. Yep, and I'm gonna go ahead and roll it out. Yep, grab that. Just gonna roll it out. So this is Sinanju Red. It's actually a color from Gundam, if you know that anime. Some people do, some people don't. And basically what we're gonna do while we hold it up like this, we're gonna spray it. And there's a couple reasons why you wanna spray like this. One is actually static. It kind of deadens the static and it prevents, you know, dust and all the other stuff. But you can see it has that hydrophobic property, which is cool. Okay, so once we do this, can I wet your fingers? The other one too? All right, so if you wet your fingers, it keeps it moist, and then basically just making sure that it's not gonna stick to yourself. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get it started. Spray a lot. And I'm gonna go ahead and see if you can grab this. Hold on. And I'm just gonna start dousing it. There we go. And see if you can pull that. And then go ahead and just spray everything. So there's a lot of techniques in this. I think if you have help, this is probably easier. And if you take the precaution, it's actually okay. Little, you don't want to grab a lot, right? And then grab the corner right here. Yep, and then we're just gonna transfer it and try to, yeah, there we go. Boom. All right, that's it. And then it's done. No, that's not done. And then basically, this design right now is still very much a prototype, but what we're doing now is basically trying to figure out how it's placed on the actual, you see how you heard that like sticking part? You might need to put a little bit more, and you can see the edges right here, encapsulates that perfectly right here. I got great coverage right here, great coverage right here. Plenty of coverage right there. look at that. That is such a beautiful red. I love it. Great. So I got that. I'm gonna go ahead and fix this because you see this. Sorry, I'll try to avoid doing that. You kind of see a little bit of there you go. A little tension right here from there to there. I'm gonna try to make it more natural. Sitting more naturally like that. But man, that red is just, it just pops. And then we're gonna go ahead and do this section. Kind of move all this bubbles. You know, I have plenty right here. Oh my goodness, this is gonna look so good when it's done. Basically, any big bubbles you want to get rid of, okay? And you see how everything is naturally just sitting. Okay, so what I ended up doing is I basically have 4 corners. All of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, I've got it tacked down. And then I got my slip solution, and this is something that you want to also make sure you do is spray on top. And a lot of people forget to spray on top. You could damage it a little bit. Right, so we're just going to go ahead and kind of loosen that up a little bit and use a bigger squeegee. I'm going to go ahead and go down the middle. Wow, beautiful. Okay, and then go ahead, I'm just going to go ahead and go out this way. Some of that water. I think a couple differences I want to notate too is in vinyl, guys, you're kind of doing more smoother motions because you're kind of gliding it through and all that stuff. But in PPF, you actually want to do more stabby motions, right? Smaller motions. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm getting all that water out. Okay. And then you never want to go back to the same direction of where you tacked. So remember I tacked those corners and you see I'm just going away from it. I'm not actually putting anything back into that area. So no. You see there's a little bit of fingers, but I've distributed where it's pretty good. I'm good over here. I'm gonna go ahead and just work my way to the back side here again. So, and when I'm holding it, I'm kind of holding it with the 4 fingers. That kind of allows me to get some even strokes. And look at all those edges. So remember, don't go back to that. I'm just going to go away from it like I just did. And then I could go down after that. Again, smaller motions. By doing that too, right, think about it. I'm bringing down some of this water and moisture, and it's basically kind of hydrating as it kind of goes down, so there's no dry spots. What a double take is it just, you're doing it like twice to make sure that you didn't miss anything. So remember I started from the middle and I did this side. I'm going a little bit harder. I'm not going like crazy, but I'm still going a little bit harder than I did previously. With some of these areas that have some of these fingers right here, I'm going to spray some of that tack into that. And you can see that it actually comes down a little bit easier. So spray into that. So if you have a big finger, you basically just distribute it. Distribute the fingers so that you don't have one giant finger, but instead 3 or 4 smaller fingers. And I purposely added way more edges than I really need to. I think that's what you want at first. And here's the thing, a lot of times there is still some time for you to get water out as long as you didn't use tack solution, right? So you can see right now, all my edges look amazing. And then the next thing too, is you do want to just do a really quick inspection and then you get to really see this color. Absolutely amazing. Be careful with the edges. You don't want the microfiber to catch that. But look at that color. It went from gray to a completely new color. I'll show you a bubble right there, but I'll also show you that you can get it out really quick. So there's a small bubble right here. You see that right there? Make sure you get that out. There we go. And probably should have used a little bit more slip. But this process, guys, is so important because if you don't do that, what I just did, and inspect it, look at different angles, you'll see bubbles. Even the best, they always want to do this because, man, we're not perfect, right? We gotta make sure that we cover all grounds, right? So I can see around the middle, no bubbles. It was mostly the edges, and actually that is a much more common area to have some of that. So one other thing too is whenever you're doing the PPF, 50% coverage. So when you do here, 50% coverage, 50% coverage, 50%. You just do that all around, get in the habit of being methodical about it. But I think that's the beauty about our kit a lot of times, is we demystify that and we say, this is how you should do it. Of course, there's more ways to skin a cat, but that is our recommended after the amount of installs that we've done. The next step is doing something called edge seal. And what you want to do is, first off, you want to get your edges, basically, watch out, douse in your tack solution. And then for this area, I would definitely just recommend going like top to bottom. You want the gravity to bring all that water down. And then you get your squeegee, and you're just making sure that around the edges, it has full coverage. Because why? Well, those are the areas where a lot of the water loves to just sit. So I've already kind of added some tack solution in this. And just making sure on those edges, none of that is seating. A lot of times I do save the corners for last, but let me see if I could at least grab it down or have it come down a little bit. So here, our corner. So I think I'm definitely gonna just let it dry a little bit, but I am going to just make sure that this edge is sealed. So you can see right there though, this is actually pretty dang good. You see that? Use a lot of tack. There you go, it's shaping into it. So you can see it's got a nice shape. We do need to cut that a little bit and then use a torch that we have over there to burn that in there. So why am I doing this? Because I think a lot of times this corner lifts up. So I can prevent that. Just making sure I don't have any working lines right here whenever this is going down. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to push that in there. There we go, you see that right there, that's great. Got no working lines, that is a common in PPF, so I want to avoid that. I want to make sure that it's perfect. Okay, great. It's just a lot, and I did that on purpose on this one, but I'm just going to go ahead. I do have a tweezer, but I'm just going to go ahead and cut it a little shorter. I think I had too much coffee this morning. All right, great. So I got some of that. And I could slowly lift this up because it actually has pretty good coverage right there. All right, so now that the corners are sealed, I'm not too worried about all the edges lifting up or anything like that. So what you could do is just completely start sealing some of these. So we're gonna actually do this because now you have even better gravity right here. And basically, you can actually start pushing this all down. So this is the corner right here. We're actually gonna work on this a little later. It's a lot easier when you have, and then you can burn into that. But basically from here, get the edges, we already did that sealing. And then, just trying to get past that. Okay, let me see if I can just show you. Okay, so let me just show you what this looks like. And we put a lot of edge right here. So you can just, but look at that, it's just sticking. It's so good. So I wanna just show you this. When you go around a pretty hard edge like this, a lot of bubbles and moisture can really sit there. So I think when we teach this, this motion is going to be so important. First off, check that there's no moisture on the top edge right here. And you want to do this motion where it kind of rolls around, really get all across that. That one does take practice, and then you kind of get in the habit, rolling around. And then you see how I'm like getting all that coverage in the surface area. That's what you want to do. So this process maybe might not be the funnest, but a very important process in terms of the longevity of your film. So if you do this right and thoroughly, this will last forever. I mean, they're rated for like 10 years, right? A lot of the PPF products. 7 to 10 years, I think, is the average. This is great. Okay. So I can't really do these corners quite yet. But typically once it's dry, we fold it into that corner. Like you can get this area. This won't be an issue, like down the middle. Let's just see, we can do this. It's like kind of coming down while I'm trying to. There you go. Part of it is, you know, all this area is not down yet. And then I'm just gonna let that sit for a little bit and I'll finish all around the edges. But you can see how nicely that fits in. What I try to do, and I think a good common practice, is you just follow the stamping. The stamping line is right there. You don't want to go past that because it actually is a ridged area. It will fail or it'll just look not that clean. So you do want to go right into that stamp area. And that's really the marker, I think. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it wasn't too bad. There are some things that you want to watch out for, but you can see how beautiful that looks. That looks so, that's red. That's real red. So really excited to finish this Sinanju color. This is going to look awesome at the end of it. We're going to go ahead and move on, and then we'll show you a couple things as we go.